Welcome to Divisive Issues, the podcast where we discuss literally divisive issues in comics. Comics that have a lot of controversy and a lot of differing opinions on them. In this episode, we'll be covering a very special comic called Justice League Cry for Justice. The premise of this comic is. Oh, wait, actually, we should introduce ourselves.
Hi, I'm Joe.
And I'm Ryan.
And I'm Sly. Cry for Justice is about.
What is this about?
It's about a bunch of people crying for justice.
Yeah, they really want justice in this
Yeah,
book.
it's a
they,
pretty on the nose title.
they really want it. They're thirsty for justice.
Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern.
Dehydrated from all those tears.
Hal Jordan, the Green Lantern, is sick and tired of how the Justice League is being run. He wants to be more proactive. He doesn't want to wait around for criminals to do stuff. He wants to bust them and hunt for them proactively. So he makes his own team separate from the Justice League. Doesn't have a name. I guess it's just called the Cry for Justice team. And
No, there's a Justice League.
they never call themselves the Justice League, so I'm just gonna call them the Cry for Justice team.
There's Justice League in this book. Black Canary gets fed up after, Green Arrow doesn't talk to him for like a week and just like, I just banded the Justice
Oh
League.
yeah, it's true. So yeah, this is Justice League.
Yeah.
So would you guys recommend Cry for Justice?
That's a complicated question. Oh wait, no, it's not. No, I wouldn't. This book is terrible. Basically, it's a more proactive superhero team, like Sly says. But usually, that would be a concept that I find really interesting. Like, where do they use their power, especially in the DC universe, where they're basically gods? Where do they draw the line? But this book does not cover any of those nuances and is just really, really bad. I don't think anyone, no matter how knowledgeable you are about the DC universe, I don't think you can follow the dozens and dozens and dozens of characters in this book. If you're a new fan, you won't have any idea what's going on. If you're an old fan, you'll just be mad at what they do to all these characters. I can't imagine anyone enjoying this book. It's not even so bad it's good. It's just
I'm going to be a little less harsh than Ryan on this one. There are certainly parts of the book that I did enjoy.
there are a couple scenes that I
The
like.
art
but
is gorgeous.
Yeah.
The writing is on nose, but not always bad. Parts of it I actually found to be very good. The biggest issue, I guess, with recommending this book is Ryan said this is not new reader friendly. It's not like if you've read any DC books within the last 5 years, you will still be confused as to what the hell is going on. The fact that it's out of continuity with the new 52, there's no real need to go back and read this book. I can't imagine why people would be curious about it. I'll say this, I like the ending. The ending is something that I haven't seen in a comic book, and I don't think I've seen it in comic books since. I can't talk too much about it without getting spoilery, but I thought the ending was actually pretty solid. I know I mentioned this before, the art is really pretty. It is really, really pretty. If you want to see a lot of faces in the DC universe, I can certainly recommend it for that. You're not going to get a lot of detail on them. You kind of got to have an encyclopedia at your side to really comprehend all the cameos and everyone that's in it. But it is so on the nose and it is so over the top and it's so not consequential in the greater scheme of the DC universe. And I think there's just so many other like books and runs that I could recommend to like a new reader that I'd say you could probably leave this one alone.
Actually, I do want to. I know who I would recommend this to. I would recommend this to someone who wants to convince their friends that comic book art isn't as campy and silly as it used to be, as like a coffee table book that you could flip through and look at the pretty pictures. Just don't touch any of the words.
You could talk some of the words.
In my opinion, when we did Civil War episode, we talked about revisiting old stories. We talked about how on a second read through we can make our piece of a story. Like the first time, maybe you look at it too fondly or too poorly, and because of that, when you revisit it, you're more conscious of the flaws. You're more conscious of the positives, and you're able to basically accept the story for what it is, not for what you wished it was or what you or the elements you hate about it. And this story has a very special place for me because, like Civil War, I had a very negative reaction when I first read it. And when I first met Ryan, he actually loved the story when he first
Wow, way
read
to
it.
fucking throw him under the bus.
Yeah,
I
so-
don't think I loved it. I
Okay, so
defended
Ryan will
it,
deny
though.
this fucking shit, but he can deny all he fucking wants to. I'm having on the record he recommends. He said he will recommend this book to the readers when we first met. So that's
I have no idea what I was thinking. I believe you, and when I was reading it today, I was like, what? Why did I ever feel this way?
But when we argued about it, I actually for a long time wondered maybe I was
Maybe my friend's an idiot.
no, but I was wondering maybe I'm the one that's wrong. Maybe I'm too harsh on this book.
Way
I'm
to
gen-
second guess yourself, Sly.
I think that's some deep insight into Sly's character. Maybe Ryan's right. Maybe Cry for Justice is great.
yeah. So when I read it, I'm like,
Maybe I was the one who cried for justice.
yeah. So when I reread it now, I was like, I was wrong. This is not a bad book. This is the worst fucking comic I've ever read in my fucking life. Like, this book is ugly. It's mean spirited. It is just
Ugly as in story, or ugly as
it's
in
it's just
art?
ugly as in it makes me feel nauseous. The shit that goes on in it, the ugliness this book represents to me. I just no book makes me feel this angry just looking at it. I fucking hate this book. Like, fuck it. Okay.
Okay, so before Sly gets
But
into
Sly,
the
how do you
plot,
really feel about this book?
there are two things that I want to point out from the forward in the book itself by the writer, who I would like to talk about the credits a little bit. It's written by James Robinson, who is, in my opinion, one of the best comic book writers to ever grace DC, but not in this case. But he talks a lot in the intro about how it wasn't the most well-received book, and I would like to just point out two parts in here. One, he has a memory about the book where he says he's realizing after the fact how often he has people saying justice in the opening parts of the series, which we will get to. It's a lot. And this paragraph I'd like to read very briefly. I can honestly say that Justice League Cry for Justice was one of the weirdest, darkest tales I've ever written. I think it may be the darkest JLA story ever written, although others may beg to differ. Am I proud of that? Not proud, no. I merely state what I feel to be true. I certainly know this tale isn't to everyone's taste. I know some people are even angered by it, like Sly. But it's a work I stand behind. I hope reading it as one combined and therefore quicker read, you'll see what I was going for. The slower build, gaining momentum, the growing cast, the growing event, and I thank you for your time reading it. That sounds a lot to me like an apology. I think for a forward, for a hardcover edition, that seems pretty apologetic to
That's
me.
very telling of the content.
I think he realizes that he may have missed the mark on this one a little bit. Only a little bit.
Yeah, so
Well, so let's get into
yeah, so I just want to specify that it's written by James Robinson and the art is by Mauro Cascioli.
Who is super good, by the way, James Robinson.
Yeah.
You're under. He is a very, very good
Oh,
writer.
I said he's one of the best writers DC's ever had. This book is terrible.
He's one of the best writers. Lots of like.
Yeah.
He's great for Marvel too.
While
Yeah.
we're giving initial recommendations, what are your thoughts on this? What's his name? The
On
artist.
Mauro Cascioli.
Moro
And the colorist.
That,
And the colorist Scott Clark.
that guy, whose name I can't pronounce. That guy's our. You guys.
That gentleman's art was something else.
Oh
let me
no,
tell
Scott
you.
Clark is not the colorist. My bad. Scott Clark does the last 3 issues.
Which are also very.
The colorist is Mauro Cascioli, Sia and Giovanni Kosowski. And I think it's a shame that this artist is on this book, because we were debating this before. I don't know how, this is just my speculation, but his art is so great, and he did 4 other issues that I could find in his whole career in like mainstream comics, and I hope that it doesn't have to do with how poorly received this book was, because he is the only thing that makes this book at all worth
I
holding.
agree.
Because his art is it's a realism that I've never seen in comics before, and he does a lot of his own inking and coloring, and it is just it's like it reminds me of Simone Bianchi a little bit, but in a much less stylized way, and it just looks great. We'll throw some pictures on the Facebook page because you have to see how cool it looks.
All right, so now we're gonna get into spoilers and other stuff. So if you're don't read this book, but if you are planning to read this book, fuck you. But if you are planning to read this book, maybe you want to skip the rest of this episode.
That's right. We don't need you viewers.
Yeah.
I think you're better off
Slash
skipping
listeners.
the book than the episode, but that's just me.
The people who like this book, we don't want listening to this podcast. So
Whoa.
Whoa.
Sly's right.
so
Not because I think they're terrible, but because I don't think they're going to appreciate the things we have to say about it.
I question their tastes. Okay, so James Robinson is a notable writer who started his work with a series called Starman, Starman was a book in the 90s about um,
Starman.
a Starman, a hero who basically his dad was Starman, and he's taking up the mantle after his brother died. He really doesn't want to be Starman, but he takes up the role because his dad really wants him to. We talked about imprints like Vertigo and Max, even though it's part of the DC universe and it relies very much on DC history. To me, Starman feels like a very Vertigo book in that it's very self-contained. Jack Knight starts his career in the beginning of the book, ends his career at the end of the book, and he never shows up in anything ever again.
He's in JSA,
Well,
for the record.
well, fuck me then.
Yeah, but that was during Starman though. Starman was going at the time that
That's
book
true, and it's
existed.
also written by James
Yeah.
Robinson.
Yeah.
Once he retires,
No, you're right,
He's
you're
not
right.
been in a book since.
And I
my
think James Robinson actually had a clause in his contract, which I don't think had ever been seen in DC before, that his Starman characters could not be used without his permission.
So, getting to the main story. The story opens up with Hal Jordan saying, "I'm sick of all this shit. I'm quitting the Justice League."
And Hal Jordan is Green Lantern, basically space cop with a magic ring.
If you saw the hit movie Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds, I'm sorry, but that can sums up the character for you. But Hal is basically pissed off because Martian Manhunter and Batman both just died. They got better, but
Not yet. They were dead at the time from the story.
but they got
Final
better. So let's not get into how that all happened. So he's sick of all of them being dead. He's sick of Justice League being reactive and says, "What about justice? We have to fight for justice. You want the League, I want justice."
Justice League, Justice Society, where's the justice?
That is not a fucking exaggeration. He fucking talks like that in this fucking
Just like
scene.
where's the beef, where's the justice?
Yes.
And basically says Justice League, they're not doing enough, and he wants to seek for justice.
Which I think is a valid premise for the story. He's going in, he's saying we keep losing people because we're in the new dark, gritty age of comics where people get killed all the time. Why do we just sit and wait for supervillains to come blow up the planet? I think that's why I originally bought the book, because I was like, this premise seems really cool.
I like the premise.
Yeah.
I don't like it with the cast of characters that were chosen.
That's true. The cast of characters makes no sense.
I think this premise is fucking stupid. First of all, when you're a team, a superhero team, you're naturally going to be reactive. Justice is reactive. You react to crimes. If they don't commit a crime, they're not criminals.
But he's saying, I think the same thing could be said about police officers, that
Police officers are reactive. When a
no,
police
but
officer
at the same time, they
addresses a
still
crime.
do detective work and look to try to prevent crimes from being
Well, that's different from what
committed.
Hal never outlines clearly what he actually
Well,
wants
that's
to
the
do.
thing, is that's where the premise is strong. I think the
execution.
his execution falls apart.
Yeah.
Because Hal never outlines why he has to quit the team.
Because no one else wants it. Superman's
But
like,
they don't say that until after he says I'm quitting.
Yeah.
okay.
Like, he just says, like, calm down, Hal, and Hal says, fuck you, I'm out of here.
And I think that they're really missing some pretty obvious metaphors that they could put in. They're in to give an idea, the Justice League's headquarters are in a satellite floating around the Earth. You could very easily talk about how we're so far up here, we're so disconnected from the people, that we don't see crimes until they're on a global scale. Like, I'm not saying, like, police officers should go out and, that time travel paradox of, like, go kill Hitler before he commits any crimes, all that stuff. But the question is, should they be doing more proactive, like, detective work to see supervillains while they're in their lairs with their henchmen planning things? And he even points out that there's, like, known supervillains that escape from Arkham Asylum and they don't do anything about.
Yeah, I saw this house like we should go after like all the active criminals who, while maybe they haven't done anything yet, they're still active criminals.
Yeah. They might not have done their newest heist, but they're criminals.
They're wanted by the law,
Yeah.
and we're just letting them sit there.
Those are fair interpretations, but I don't think Hal ever clearly outlines his plan.
Oh, no, he doesn't.
I agree.
He doesn't.
But as a Hal Jordan fan, when I first read this, he's a space cop, and I always felt it was weird that he was a cop as his like day job, and then he's on the Justice League, which is so above the law and all that stuff. And I like the idea of him being like, let's do cop stuff.
I just want to talk about that for a second, because Hal is a space cop, and he's a very bipolar character in general, because we know the Ryan Reynolds, goofy, funny Hal Jordan. There's also the conservative, cry for justice Hal Jordan we see here and existed for many years. And that character is at odds in this story, where 1 minute he talks, I want justice, Justice League, Justice Society, justice, justice, justice. Next scene he's talking about, oh, it's cold up here, I want a jacket, yuck, yuck, yuck.
See, that's to get a little bit ahead, he teams up with Green Arrow.
Yeah.
And Green Arrow has always been the like liberal soapbox preaching about the fat cats to Hal's conservative cop, authority figure. And I actually find the two sides of Hal to be intentional and interesting in his character, where he's like, he always reminds me of like your conservative uncle that's really fun and then gets really serious about things at Thanksgiving sometimes.
I disagree. Like, I feel the dialogue in the story is fucking atrocious.
Again, I don't think that's a problem with the premise. The writing does not handle it well.
Okay, so we disagree on the premise, but getting into the execution of this premise, we go from justice, justice, justice. Hal goes with Green Arrow, quits the watchtower. Next scene is them saying, maybe we should have used a teleport instead of flying all the way down to Earth. And then they're like, oh, my wife's gonna kill me. I just quit the team with her on it. Fuck this book. But the tonal inconsistencies, the way people talk.
Yeah. For the record, Green Arrow's wife is Black Canary.
Who's leader of Justice League at the moment.
Yes. See, I can't believe I'm defending this book so much, but I took that as Hal had this dramatic speech plan, and Hal's always been a reckless, impulsive character. He had this dramatic speech planned, and he gives the dramatic speech, and he has his drop the mic and run away, and then he realizes, I'm an idiot. Why did I do that? There were such smarter ways to handle this. That's the way I interpreted it. But again, there's obviously, we're like 5 pages in, there's obviously discrepancies that the dialogue does not make these things clear.
I would buy the explanation, but if it wasn't a consistent problem that people act like strange justice robots, saying justice, justice, justice 1 second, and then making jokes the next second, that happens throughout this entire book, that I find it really off-putting and totally inconsistent. But
no, I think that's fair.
No, it's a clash in tones. It really is like because it's like you have that big dramatic scene, and then Hal's like, man, God, we should really take in the teleporter.
Yeah.
They're all like, oh, God, we should have taken the teleporter.
I think he does do the tone shift really poorly later on. This is one time that I think it's fine.
Okay, so next scene is Ray Palmer, the Atom. If you don't know what the Atom is basically DC's version of Ant-Man. A guy who shrinks and has a very fucked up backstory. And in this story, he's fighting alongside with Ryan Choi, who's basically the new Atom.
Basically, the backstory on the Atom, as the resident Atom expert, he's a scientist who shrinks and tries to stay really optimistic, and throughout his entire career, something terrible happens, and he disappears for a while. And he gets like dark and gritty for a little bit, and then he comes back, and he's like, I'm ready to be better. And then something terrible happens. It reminds me a lot of Spider-Man, how Spider-Man just gets shit on and shit on and shit on, and he keeps getting up, but Ray doesn't have the plot armor that Spider-Man has, so he
gets up a lot slower.
He gets up a lot slower. And one of the times he was gone for a while, Ryan Choi, who's a graduate student, takes over as the Atom, and this scene is the first time in current continuity that they have met.
So, this is the first time I've ever heard his character. Maybe he existed before this, but we get our first off-screen death when Ray Palmer says Professor Hyatt was tortured and mutilated and killed by this group of villains they're fighting.
Okay, I'm not going to go into detail on every name drop that they have, but I think Professor Hyatt has such a tonally ridiculous difference to this book that I have to go into detail. He was a 60s Atom character that invented a time portal called the Time Pool that was about the size of a glass, and it was just a floating portal that would travel in time, and Professor Hyatt would fish with a magnet to try to catch treasures of the past, because that's a thing you do, and the Atom would shrink down and ride the magnet into the past and go on time travel adventures, some of which he teams up with Edgar Allan Poe and invents the detective story. He hides in a lamp to beat a corrupt sultan, and they call him Al-Atom, who eventually, through time, becomes known as the Legend of Aladdin. So yes, having him be brutally mutilated and murdered off screen is ridiculous.
Correction, sorry. It was actually Professor Hyatt's assistant, Mike Dante, who got tortured and mutilated.
Mike Dante was a half-man, meaning he was literally cut down the middle during Ryan Choi's time as the Atom, if I recall. And wait, no, I'm totally wrong. That was a different character. That was Professor Hyatt's like clone?
Man,
whatever.
Really rough go for the Atom characters.
Yeah, really rough go for the Atom characters. I don't know who his assistant is.
But he dies off screen, so...
Either way, why bring Professor Hyatt into this
Yeah.
story? Is there anyone that isn't me that's going to be like, Professor Hyatt,
Yeah.
that's a name drop I can get behind?
So Ray Palmer and Ryan Choi beat up these villains responsible for this, and now they want to interrogate who the ringleader is. And Ray Palmer,
Another ridiculously campy villain they bring, or campy
Killer Moth.
character, Killer Moth.
yeah, kill him
Who's
off.
exactly what he sounds like.
Listen, I don't know about you. I'm always excited to see Killer Moth. Let me have this.
Really?
Yeah.
Really? Even in this context?
Even
Joe?
in this context.
So this context where Ray Palmer says, "I'm Ray Palmer. Welcome to pain. You ever have a sinus headache? Because I'm going to go into your brain and torture the fuck out of your brain."
Yeah.
So
This is Aladdin we're talking about. Nope, that's Mulan that I'm thinking of. Never mind.
So you're going to make a man out of him, Ryan? Is that the road you're going for?
So Ray Palmer tortures Killer Moth by stepping on his brain, shrinking down and stepping on his brain.
I can't tell you how many times Joe has looked me in the eyes and goes, "You ever have a sinus headache?"
I do it all the time. Because back when Ryan really liked this book.
I don't know what was wrong with me.
So Ray Palmer and Ryan Choi part ways because Ray Palmer wants to get to the bottom of this, and his last line before he parts ways is justice.
That's
This is the
ridiculous.
best scene in the book.
But
though.
this is my favorite scene in the book because there's an actual heartfelt. There's like a dual narration between the two of them about how they both respect each other so much, and they like officially shake hands. And Ryan Choi's idol is Ray Palmer, and he like gives him the blessing to be the Atom. And then Ryan Choi leaves the book; he's not in it anymore. And I think
he
that's,
goes off to better things.
as a big Ray Palmer Ryan Choi fan at the time I read it, I think that's one of the reasons why I defended it, because that's a scene that I always wanted to see, and I think aside from the torture stuff, is handled very well.
Those 4 pages made the entire book for College Ryan.
Yes, College Ryan did a lot of dumb things, like live 2 weeks on nothing but mac and cheese and Raisinets.
Isn't that delicious? I don't blame you.
So then we go to Starman, not the Starman that Robinson wrote, but a Starman that guest starred in Robinson's run.
Well, no, it is a character that Robinson created for the book.
He actually was a character that existed beforehand.
Oh, really?
He was basically a failed 70s follow-up to the original Starman, who was basically an alien who came down to Earth, betrayed his alien race for humanity. And fun fact, he only appeared in one issue, ends on a cliffhanger, he disappears until Robinson's run 20 years later.
And he's a pretty major character in Robinson's Run. And one thing I would like to point out that's extremely relevant here is, as far as I know, he's one of the first bisexual character in DC. And this was in the 90s when that wasn't really common.
Yeah.
Not that it's super common now. But he
more
was...
common now.
Yeah, it's more common now. But he was definitely a ahead of his time character that really, in Starman, his sexuality is explored in a much more mature and emotional way than we see a lot. And the reason why I bring this up is because his first scene is at the funeral of his
Gay boyfriend,
of his dead gay boyfriend,
Tony.
which just really sets the tone for me, where it's like, remember all the like nuanced stuff about his sexuality? We're never going to mention it ever again, and we're just going to bury his boyfriend.
So in the behind-the-scenes stuff that Robinson wrote, he says how he never really developed Tony as a character, and he says with this death, Tony has the impact on the story and the readers that he never had in real life. And my interpretation of that is, boy, it's so much easier to kill off a character, make a cheap emotional weight from that rather than develop him.
Men in refrigerators?
Yeah, he gets fridged.
Yeah.
Which is a term that I feel like we're definitely going to talk about a lot more, that I feel like needs explaining. It stems from an mid-90s Green Lantern story where the new Green Lantern at the time, Kyle, has a girlfriend that she's only in it for a couple issues.
One issue, I think.
No, it's like 4 or 5 issues.
Okay.
And
She has a life, Sly.
Yeah.
4 or 5 issue
But
life.
she's introduced just so she can get every bone in her body broken and stuffed in her refrigerator. And after that, it began a trope that was popularized in the late 90s called women in refrigerators, which is when you introduce a love interest character, and as much as it pains me to say it, it's almost always female, just to kill them off, to make the character fall to their knees and scream no into the sky.
Or in this case, justice.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is what happens when
Yeah.
Mikal finds out.
And having Tony get fridged really sucks.
It sets the tone for things to come.
Exactly.
Next we have Kongorilla.
Who's that, you may ask?
Well, that's a very good question.
So Kongorilla, a.k.a. Congo Bill, a.k.a. Bill, it's a man
He can't decide in the book either.
Yeah.
Let's keep these introductions quicker.
Yeah.
He's a man that turns into a gorilla
Yeah.
sometimes.
And his gorilla family dies. So he wants justice. By the way, what is a fucking DC and fucking gorilla heroes and villains?
They have a whole city of them.
Marvel has like 0, and DC has like a shit
gorillas
ton.
are awesome.
Yeah, Marvel should step up their game.
Gorillas, yeah. Sly's right. Marvel needs way more gorillas.
We need more gorillas and less diverse characters. Although I did gorillas are that's a diversity. That's like it's underrepresented.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, group in
They're typing the
comics.
demographic, the gorilla demographic. But
They buy comics, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
this is one thing I want to point out though. Kong Gorilla was Golden Age fun adventure character.
Golden Age is the 30s, 40s, and early 50s.
But he became a Silver Age 70s goofy character by becoming a gorilla. And I just want to
As you do.
and this is the thing that happens a lot of times in comics where writers will bring back characters from the childhoods, goofy fun characters from the childhoods, and put them in really dark, messed up stories, which I find really weird because it misses the point of the tone of
I
these characters.
feel like the reason why I think this is, I actually feel pretty strongly about this. I think it's because these are characters that these guys loved when they were kids, and they thought they were so cool, and they want to show people. They're like, look how cool this character is. All those guys, all my friends that told me they were dumb. Didn't I tell you how cool Kongorilla was? Look at him kill all these dudes.
But that being said, Kong Gorilla is one of the only good parts of this book.
Yeah, I don't mind his introduction to this. I feel like he works as a relatively blank slate character. He works in this book because there's not a lot of damage.
I have no problem with Kongorillo, but the rest of the scene I despise.
They kill off Kong Gorilla's friend, Freedom Beast.
Freedom Beast. And I have a big problem with Freedom Beast's death. There was a character called Freedom Beast that in the 60s that was he helped control animals or talk to animals or whatever he did. He had some sort of like nature powers, and he was this white guy in Africa.
You saying it's about Wannabeast? Or is he slightly different?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, he's Bwana Beast.
Okay.
And he changes his name to Freedom Beast at some point. One of them does.
All
But Bwana Beast in the 80s, Grant Morrison's Animal Man run, and Animal Man comes up in this book too, replaces him with a black character, because Grant Morrison says, he's the only African character that DC has. Why do we make him like a big white guy? Like he should be an African character. So they make him into a black character, and then he's one of the few African characters I think that DC has, and they kill him off right away again, just like Tony, one of the few gay characters that DC has.
To be fair, though, he doesn't die off screen. He dies only in the first page he appears in. The very first page. So give him credit. They gave him some time to breathe.
Yeah, but I feel like, especially coming in the same issue as the Tony thing, why are you doing this?
So Kong Gorilla cries for justice. And
That's the end of issue 1.
Yeah, end of issue 1. Issue 2 begins with Green Arrow and Green Lantern in Gotham. And
Good things always happen in Gotham.
yeah, Green Lantern actually talks about how much he hates Gotham, how much he hates Batman. But he is sad that Batman is dead now.
No, it's a nice scene.
I like this scene
Yeah.
because James Robinson pretty accurately describes that feeling you get when someone you don't really like very much dies, and you're like, I want to grieve, but I feel like I don't deserve to grieve because I think he's an asshole.
And you almost don't know how.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I felt like this is when I'm like, James Robinson's a real good writer. Like Joe said earlier, there's parts where I'm like, the great writer that James Robinson is shines through.
Because we're pointing out this is a good scene, and because I really hate this comic, I have to point out the one big, huge, glaring flaw in the scene.
Is it the threesome thing?
Yeah. As a joke, Green Lantern says, I have a confession to make. And Green Arrow says, oh, yeah, I heard you had a threesome with Lady Blackhawk and Huntress. Good job, man. And basically implying, oh, yeah, let's make Hal look like a stud by implying that he had a threesome with two strong female characters. I've seen, by the way, that the person writing those characters basically made a response to this and revealed that Hal basically just got drunk and tried to grope them instead. And I always love it when the writer's like, I'm going to ruin your character by putting a dumb joke in my book. And the other writer's like, no, fuck you, you're not.
Yeah.
So then we jump to Black Hawk Island, where Kongorilla and Starman are fighting for no reason. And
They really are. It just cuts to them
They're just
fighting.
Yeah.
I just read this before. I'm just like, and they're here now. Why are they here?
Yeah. Did they even tell how Starman got here?
No.
What brought them there?
Yeah.
That's sort of like what brought them to do we know what brought them to Black Hawk Island?
All they say is, how did you get this far? Connections. End of scene.
Now keep in mind,
This is how good writing works.
Kongorillo and this Starman are not characters that most
People know.
people know. So, and they don't explain who these people are at all. Like, we gave some backstory about Starman, about these characters. That is not said in these books at all. So, how would they like connections means nothing, and we
Yeah.
have no attachments to these characters at all.
So there's just a big filler scene where they showing them fighting, and then they don't even bother how they even got to that island.
It does look awesome. Though.
Yeah, it does
This
look
artist
awesome.
is so good.
Yeah. So then they get a plane and fly off Black Hawk Island.
Yeah.
What is Black Hawk Island?
I'm not gonna get into fucking Black Hawk Island. Fuck you.
Okay, never mind.
So then, Green Arrow and Green Lantern meet one of Batman's friends. He tells them where a bunch of villains are hiding out, and apparently Prometheus, who is a villain, we should explain.
He's anti-Batman. He's a guy that his parents were killed by cops. His parents were like bank robbers or whatever. So he decided to do all this. Like he basically became Batman, but as a criminal. So he has all these plans. He knows how to take out every hero. He showed up in JLA in the 90s.
He's also not exactly like Batman because he cheats. He has this that he puts into his helmet that gives him the fighting capabilities of many different people, and basically uses that to cheat to get the best fighting abilities possible.
Yeah, but I think his origin is basically...
He's meant to be an antithesis
yeah,
to Batman.
Exactly.
And the story, basically, before the story, they had a bad story called Hush Returns, where they made him kind of into a joke. And this story was a way to...
He was in Hush Returns?
Listen, no one looked good in Hush
Yeah.
Returns, so
But-
let's not get into that.
Yes, but basically, Robinson says he wanted Prometheus to become top shit villain in the story. This is his way to make Prometheus to a top dog villain.
He also goes out of his way to be like, oh, that was an imposter Prometheus
Yeah.
in that Hush story.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Green Arrow and Green Lantern find out Prometheus is arranging a villain meetup, and they jump off the roof and go fight this villain meetup. Next scene is Jay Garrick, the original Flash.
I get so mad at this.
His first scene is the Flash Museum, which is a museum that collects Flash memorabilia, has been broken into by Prometheus, and he killed off the Three Stooges.
Okay. Off screen, Sly really wanted me to talk about these guys.
I did too, because I like I said, I was reading this from the two of them, and it's like, he killed some friends of mine, and then it's a cutaway to these very old-fashioned, old-timey looking characters, and I jokingly call them the Three Stooges.
Yeah, as Sly and Joe said, a combination of the Three Stooges and Laurel and Hardy. They and a third guy. And
Some other third man.
Jay Garrick is the Golden Age Flash. He's the original Flash. And in the 40s, his book had a lot of other features because comics used to be like more magazines than comic books. And it was like a comedy team of like goofy guys that would like get into trouble, and sometimes they would like fall.
Not trouble like in a comic trouble, but
Yeah,
more instead
they
of
would
that.
they were the Three Stooges.
They
Basically.
get comedic situations, not like bone each other.
Yeah, they would like paint a house and like accidentally catch a criminal for the Flash and stuff
Walk,
like that.
walk.
And for no reason at all, James Robinson kills them off screen.
Yeah.
It's not like they were in another book. It's not like they have anything to do with the story. And it's not like anyone even knows who they are enough to be like, whoa, he killed Nonky, Blinky, and Pinky or whatever their names are. Like, I don't get why he killed them. It makes no sense to me.
And also, Jay Garrick has barely anything to do with the story too, and he is not
He
part of
is
the team.
he gets a lot of screen time for someone who doesn't do anything.
Yeah,
though.
he's not part of
Yeah.
the team. He does not cry for justice. They kill all those characters, not even making cry
Thank
for
God he
justice.
doesn't cry for justice,
Yeah.
though.
But like, so Ray meets up with Jay, and they give up. They talk about their backstory. So if you never read any comics, you'll find about how Ray Palmer was a teenager for a little bit and joined the Teen Titans. If you want to hear about that.
This story is really just James Robinson showing off his incredible knowledge of the DC
Yeah,
universe.
that's the thing that I
Almost,
think,
I think to his detriment a little bit.
yeah, that's one thing I want to point out is, a lot of times we talked about this a little bit with Civil War, that sometimes it's hard to jump in with these characters and like they throw in extra exposition in comics so
Yeah.
we can catch up. But this book goes out of its way to be confusing. He brings up things that we're going to get to in the next scene that there's no reason to mention. I don't get why he mentions them. And like you mentioned, the time Ray Palmer was turned into a teen and he ran the Teen Titans. Why? Why bring that? Why say that? And I think Joe really nailed it. That it sounds like he's just bragging about how much DC knowledge he knows. But this is in 2009.
I don't necessarily hate the Teen Titans thing. It's just because he's trying to establish that Freddy and him had a prior connection. But just be like, oh yeah, we teamed up in the past. You don't need to go
Yeah.
into the fact he was a teenager. I don't think Ray Palmer wants to get in the fact that he was a teenager. Like, just
Because I know.
Let's forget about
yeah.
that.
just be like, like we teamed up once. It was
Because
cool.
we know, between the three of us, we know a lot about the DC universe, and there were so many characters that the three of us were like, "Who is this guy? Who is this guy?" Like
Not even who is this guy, but who is this guy? Oh, wait, he's dead.
and who,
So even if this is your
what are
favorite-
they referencing? Like, what
even
stories are they
here's the
referencing?
thing, even if
Yeah.
it's like if they're your cult favorite, you don't want to see him in this because they die.
Yeah.
So the Freddy that Joe was referring to is Freddie Freeman, who is Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel Jr.
let's not get into fucking that. He's Captain Marvel at this
He's
moment.
Captain Marvel Jr.
Fuck you. So Captain Marvel. Okay, he's Captain Marvel Jr. Joe wins.
He's
Okay.
also Shazam at this point.
Okay.
Suck and
Okay.
fly.
Okay. So all you have to know is Freddie Freeman says Shazam. He turns into a big boy, and he basically becomes
He's a little boy who says Shazam and turns into a big boy.
he basically turns into Superman. Like he's
No,
basically.
he's a teenager who turns into a buffer teenager at this point.
I like the little boy, big boy.
But he basically lives the childhood dream of I want to become a superhero, and he gets the magic word.
He's wish fulfillment.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is wishful.
It's very nice.
So Captain Marvel Jr. Freddie Freeman. Just call him Freddie Freeman.
Just call him Freddie.
Freddie picks up
They
Ray.
all call him Freddy anyways.
So Freddie picks up Ray and takes him to meet Hal and Green Arrow.
Hey, why does he do that?
Because they want justice just like them.
I guess.
I'm sorry. No, that's totally steps. They're like, we want justice.
They-
Let's go get justice. Oh, they're getting justice. Let's go have a
did
justice
Green Lantern
party.
Green Arrow make a goddamn Facebook event that was like, everybody who wants justice, meet up in Times Square?
That's a
Yeah.
good point.
Yeah, it was cry for justice, question mark, meet us here at this location.
Batman's friend says, "We're on the reason why Batman's friend meets him up and says, we're on the street is you're out for justice." Like, how long were they out here that all of a sudden everyone's like, "You're out for justice, I'm out for justice, you're out for justice, I'm out for justice."
Yeah, I heard Linda Park cover this and like the
Yeah,
in the
like
news.
are they like tweeting about this? That they're like, "Yo guys, justice meetup."
No, it's like 1997. They're still on MySpace. Oh, no, 2007. They're still on like MySpace.
Because whatever they're doing,
No, they're on
I
Facebook
want
by
to
now.
use those techniques to promote this podcast. That's how everybody who wants justice come listen to this show.
So that,
This page is ridiculous.
this page is stupid. They beat up fucking Bizarro, Scarecrow, like a whole army.
Wait, Bizarro's there?
Yep, Bizarro. They beat up Bizarro, the two of them. Beat up
Bizarro
Bizarro.
is a Superman clone.
Yes, he has Superman's powers. They beat up
Well,
him
he's
and
over
a,
Superman powers.
and a whole army of other superhero villains off panel.
Freddy brings Ray to meet up with Green Lantern, Green Arrow, and they are standing triumphantly over has to be 20 villains.
That they are outpowered
That
by
they
a lot.
beat them off screen, and there is no reason why they would have been able to beat three of these guys together. There are a bunch of D-listers, don't get me wrong.
Just
But,
because they're
like,
dealers doesn't mean they're not powerful.
oh, yeah, Javelin, come on.
No, but Bizarro, Mr. Freeze.
Some of them might be powerful, but like some of them, I'll give them that. Like, yeah, they took out Javelin.
But without a plan, they just jumped into this fight.
Yeah, but that's the thing. They don't have a plan, and they. It is. You open this page, and there's so many dudes. I don't get.
Yeah,
It's
like-
all off panel.
That's the thing, for like a throwaway fight, I don't know why they put as many. Like if it was just Javelin and like guys of that ilk, absolutely. This.
Why
you
is
know,
Mr. Freeze and Bizarro there?
hell if I know.
And why this fight? Why did they not show this fight and show the fucking Kong Gorilla?
That's the thing. The
Starman
Starman
fight.
Gorilla fight. Yeah.
Well, I don't have any interest in this fight. This fight doesn't add anything. It's just like
Then why have it in there? Why is it in the story?
I want to see how they beat all these guys. That sounds awesome.
I don't because
With this
they
artist.
wouldn't beat these guys. They would lose this
They
fight.
hand wave this bullshit.
They
yeah.
would lose this fight so hard.
Yeah.
So that's why like I don't mind that you're just gonna have a fight, but like remove like half those characters.
Yeah.
All right, so then after the fight, Ray Palmer, the Atom, and Freddie Freeman show up and say, "Hey, you like justice? We like justice." And then Supergirl shows up and says, "You know what? I like justice." But Green Lantern says, "I don't know. Do you really like justice?" And she starts crying.
Well, okay, I thought that line was really weird. Supergirl shows up and helps them, and then because of all those villains, Javelin is the one that wakes up.
Yeah.
And it's like, you can't take me down. I'm Javelin. I throw javelins. That's all I do. So, Supergirl, as they say in this really awkward, clunky dialogue, her dad was killed by somebody, and she's banished from Earth, and she's on this other planet, and
She's incognito.
She comes back incognito in a giant Supergirl like cheerleader outfit.
She's like, I'm supposed to be incognito right now, but I'm not, so whatever.
Yeah, and so I guess that's why he asks if she's a hero or villain, but it's so weird in context, and this is one of the things that I started to notice in this scene, is like Joe said, she says, I'm incognito. Well, not now, not this moment, but usually I am.
But that's my status quo for this moment that
Yeah,
we're
and
ignoring.
it's this weird thing that James Robinson does throughout this entire book, where he says this weird dialogue choice or this awkward thing, and then has a character point out the flaw in that, which doesn't make sense to me. Just don't say the thing. Don't have her say she's incognito. Or, like, somebody will say, like, in issue 1, Green Arrow says, oh boy, a bunch of times. And then somebody says, he's really saying oh boy a bunch of times. Just don't have him say oh boy a bunch of times.
I think those were for like, oh boy is definitely for comedic effect, the same way like when he makes fun of the sinus headache line. This just feels like he's trying to adhere to the continuity of what's going on in everyone else's book, but it's not going to work. But he's doing his best to at least acknowledge, like, look, this is her status quo, but I want to use her in the story,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to fit this square peg into a round
And Joe
hole.
mentioned this before about how editorial or like the universe itself kind of took some characters away, put more characters in, and we feel that throughout the book. And that is one of the big flaws of a shared universe is like, yeah, he wanted to tell the story with Supergirl. Why Supergirl? I don't understand. She doesn't really have a major role at all.
No one has a major role in the story.
Yeah, but he wants to tell the story with Supergirl, and he has to hand wave and explain this continuity stuff. That
You
is
could
a
do, you
flaw
could do
that
it better than that.
he could do a better job, but as far as clunky continuity, that's not so much Robinson's fault. He could handle it better.
He's trying. This is
He's
the thing.
trying.
He is trying to acknowledge that other stuff is going on. In, like,
No,
the universe.
no. There's better than having Hal say, "Are you a hero or a villain?" and then have her explain, "I am technically not a hero right now."
Yeah.
There's a way better way. Like
there are better
Oh,
ways.
no, there is. It's clunky. I give him credit for trying to make it fit, even though he doesn't do it in the best way.
But okay, one thing we should try to
Yeah.
we are harping a lot. We are an issue in. If we point out everything that sucks about this book,
Yeah.
we will be here all night.
So I'm gonna skip over the Kongorilla Starman fight because they fight a bunch of robots because this fight has nothing to do with the rest of the story. So
Yeah, there's so much inconsequential like things.
That's
in
the thing
this-
is like
in
if
this
we
series.
harp on every stupid thing, like there are so
we can. For those listening, we could harp on.
Yeah,
quite
there
a
is
few
a
things in this
bunch
book.
of just comic book bullshit of just fights for no reason. It would be cool to watch them punch robots. You know, like there's so much stuff that we're gonna gloss over.
so they capture Prometheus. I think off panel. Yeah, they capture Prometheus off
Yeah.
panel,
What a big bad.
and Ray Palmer tortures them, and then it turns out to be Clayface, which makes no sense because Ray Palmer's a scientist, and he going inside Clayface's brain and doesn't realize Clayface, a shape-shifting man of clay, is not actually a human being.
Well, I don't. Yeah, I feel like if Clayface shapeshifted into every single organ and everything,
Yeah.
he would have to be way smarter than he is.
Yeah. So that makes no sense. So
Yeah.
Clayface turns out
This is, I think, the clunkiest and best dialogue of the whole book.
which one?
The
They have my
after
son.
the Clayface
but-
scene, right after.
All right. So Clayface says he has my family. I have
His son, yeah.
his son. I'm gonna kill myself, and he blows up and basically trying to suicide bomb into.
Well, that's his purpose. He's there to suicide
Yeah.
bomb them.
So he's there to suicide bomb into the team. It turns out.
Wait, this is the best dialogue. So he goes, "They have my son. I'm like, I don't want to do this," and he blows himself up. And the team is protected by Shazam's magic lightning,
Yep.
which I don't understand how that works. It's lightning, like
Yeah.
I don't get that.
That'll be touched upon later.
It's a bomb. But so then they go, "Why did he do that? How did Prometheus get to him?" And no one in the they go back and forth between everybody, and everybody but Ray Palmer are like, "I don't know. Why would he do that? What did Prometheus have on him?" And Ray Palmer goes, "Didn't he say they had his son?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, I guess you're right."
We were talking before we started recording this about like why are certain characters here? What purpose do they serve? And Ryan's like, why do they have Ray Palmer here? I'm like, because he's the only one that like fucking listens to whatever's going
like
on.
he said 2 pages ago that they had his son.
Yeah.
And the team is like, I wasn't paying attention. I don't know why did he do that?
Supergirl choosing the ogling Freddy, which is
Yeah.
another wonderful subplot in this book.
That doesn't go anywhere.
I hate that fucking subplot. I don't
Doesn't
want
make
to
any sense.
I don't want to get into it, but it's so fucking force. It's like one line every couple pages just to forcefully say, "Hey, they're interested in each other."
Supergirl and Freddie Freeman, like whoever's perspective is just like, "Hey, nice bod," and then like that's it. It doesn't go anywhere. There's no payoff. It's just weird.
The reason there's no payoff is also wonderful.
But
There's a big reason why there's no payoff.
But
to that.
the way it's forced into this fucking story is so
Yeah.
terrible.
Their romance I actually wouldn't mind seeing,
I wouldn't either, but, it
but
was
it's
done well.
poorly done.
Yeah, I'm coming for the justice, but I'm staying for the teen romance.
So the real Prometheus is in his domain in the pocket dimension.
He's in his hideout.
Yeah, it's a place that's hard to get to. That's just clarify for later because
Yeah.
a character gets in here that shouldn't have gotten in here very easily. But and it brings it up mostly because he cackles about how evil he is and how he made the master plan.
To another DC character who's one of the mad scientist characters, IQ, or like Professor Quimby or Quincy or whatever. He's not a major character, but he's there for no reason, just for Prometheus to cackle at, and then he puts him, he like mind wipes him and turns
Yeah.
him into a baby or whatever mentally.
He gives them like a baby IQ.
And I have to point out we have another off-screen character death because Prometheus brags, "I'm gonna kill Justice League just like I killed off the entire Global Guardians team in Europe." That was great.
Yeah, one of DC's few like really diverse franchises. They haven't done a whole lot with them, but it's a European Union team.
You know, I didn't know they existed.
And they were focused. They were focused in Jeff Johns' Green Lantern run right before that.
And also, one of the members, Tasmanian Devil, in a very tasteful manner, Prometheus took his corpse and uses it as a throw rug.
Cool.
Yeah.
But the Global Guardians had been featured a couple times in recent years. That I don't know why he has to kill them in a word bubble.
So, as Ryan said, Freddie Freeman makes them survive the explosion.
Because lightning beats bombs.
Yeah. And even stupider than that, Supergirl says, that was a stupid plan because I'm like invincible and Shazam is like invincible. So, like, what the fuck is that going to do to us? And then Robin doesn't have Green Lantern pipe up and say, actually, the bomb had Kryptonian DNA in it, and it had Hal Jordan DNA in it, and it was going to exchange its substance when it exploded, and it was going to kill all of you, like, totally. Like,
No, Slide's absolutely correct. It's like, well, actually, the bomb was going to kill all of you because of these reasons.
it's like a fifth grader writing a fan fiction about how a bomb that kills Superman, saying, no, the bomb would totally kill Superman because it had like kryptonite explosion in it, and it would die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really is that.
So then we have Martian Girl, which we're not getting into because she barely matters. in the
Miss
story.
Martian.
Miss Martian.
Miss
You
Martian.
might know her from Young Justice. She doesn't do anything.
You do get a nice upskirt shot of her, though.
Yeah,
Very
cool.
tasteful.
Cool.
I do, as much as I love the art, the way he draws girls is very TNA.
Yeah, we used the phrase cheesecake last time, and I don't think we talked about it. Cheesecake is when it's like, hey boys, look at these ladies. There's a scene where they show Supergirl, and it's just her, like, she's at the forefront of the panel, so you just see her hair and her boobs, and that's it. And it's like, why? Why do that?
So then we get more Congorilla and Mikal bullshit.
McCall is Starman's name.
Mikal is Starman.
Yeah.
I do have to bring this up just because this seems fucking stupid. They find two members of Prometheus' group and they beat them up. And Starman Mikal says Congora's going to kill the two villains. And Starman says, don't kill them. I just got a vision from Tony right now. He says killing is wrong. That is my character development for the story. And it's one off-screen panel. Literally.
This book, we were reading some Amazon reviews for a goof before the show, and people that really like this book were talking about the like moral argument. It is no one argues. It's just like, don't kill these people, and they're like, okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's no argument.
It's weird because I didn't mind their storyline. I kind of like their investigation, but it is very clunky.
That's the thing is,
Clunkily,
I find
not
like
clunky. It's clunkily placed throughout.
I would
feel
rather read
like-
a story about these two characters solving crimes than
yeah,
another
if they were
story.
like doing buddy cops, like getting vengeance and also keeping their role as
Yeah.
heroes, like that's the thing is, I'm not saying these scenes are poorly done. I'm saying in the scope of the book, they're awkwardly shoved in and have nothing to do with the main plot, and they don't go anywhere.
Yeah, and this scene goes nowhere because Mikal stops him, Starman stops Congorilla from killing them, but then they kill themselves anyway, so they're on a dead end anyway.
One of them
Yeah.
tries to sell out the other one. The other one's like, in classic Force Awakens, where it's like traitor.
So this
Yeah.
so this story does not matter to the main plot.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like it does have endearing moments, but it's so awkward. It's shoved in the middle of these issues.
So then the Cry for Justice team is hunting Prometheus. So Ray Palmer is doing his brain stepping thing and telling
Sinus
everyone.
infections. Sinus headaches.
Infections.
Sinus headaches.
He's doing his deviated septum thing.
But Green Arrow even points out, how many times are we going to hear Ray say, "Hey, you ever had a sinus headache?" This is getting very old.
Yeah, like if one of the characters is bored of it, how do they think the readers feel?
And that's where it's like, that's supposed to be the setup for a moral argument. Is, hey, maybe we're overdoing the sinus headache thing. Like, it comes off so jokey.
And classic
like-
Green Arrow, he cares more about the wasted punchline than the moral argument.
Joe brings up that this seems like a setup to a moral argument, and it seems like it is going to be a setup to a moral argument. Green Arrow says, we're torturing these people, these are human beings, we can't torture them. And Green Lantern says, they're villains, we're heroes, we can do whatever we want to them. What did they do to Batman? Since we want revenge, we can torture and kill people. That's what heroes do. We have the moral high ground, we're allowed to do anything. Which in real life, that's what real villains do. They say, we're the heroes, they're the villains, we can do whatever the fuck they want to them.
But I will say that in the current world, that could be a very valid argument. Especially given the political landscape of the world, how far is too far for the good guys to go is a valid question to ask. that a lot of people debate. It is not done well in this book, but that argument of just that's what villains do, I think doesn't do service to that question.
Yeah.
Is it okay to do bad things to bad people to help good people?
No, but
and that's a question that if this book fully explored, it would be significantly better, but it does not. It just they just go back and forth a couple times and then they move on to something else.
No, the justification argument is what makes it such a compelling argument and why this scene is so not compelling.
yeah.
And also, do we know what the threat is? They're torturing people because they want to catch villains before they do bad things.
Well, they're just like, they're almost like being heavies right now and just like roughing people up trying to find
but they're like
Prometheus.
Prometheus is a bad guy. They don't mention any of the people he's killed. They just want to get him because he's a bad guy. So it seems like I could see the argument.
Well, they know he's hired the people to go and take.
But
these
I could see
things.
the argument being a lot better if they're like, he has a bomb somewhere, or like he has these hostages. We have to find him. Time is of the essence. They don't say any of that. They just say we have to torture him to find him for whatever.
He's the mastermind.
But of what?
That's the question.
We don't know.
Well, in proactive justice, are you going to wait around to see what his big plan is, or are you going to torture the crap out of people to try and find out?
We should have some clues that there's a big plan.
Yeah.
Not just he wanted to have a fucking.
Well, he's stolen stuff. He takes you took the cosmic treadmill from the Flash
So
Museum.
hunting down for that.
Oh, I totally forgot about that.
So that's different. That's actually hunting down for a crime he committed. That's not proactive justice.
He's hired these people to go like take stuff. They don't necessarily know what his big plan is, but they know he has something going on.
So he's a crook, and he wanted to have a high school reunion of the fucking Injustice League. They go and torture everybody for it? That seems ridiculous to me.
Be it proactive justice. This is what Hal Jordan's all about now.
My liberal side is showing.
Listen, Green Arrow, why don't you calm down over there, all right? Let people have sinus headaches.
But it's not even proactive because everything they do in the story is a reaction to what the villains are doing.
Yeah.
Every what they call justice in the story is revenge.
No, that's the point. The whole point is like I felt at least like guys like their whole let's give people sinus headaches, and this is the part in the story where like I don't think we're being as productive as we could be.
Yeah, but it doesn't. The argument isn't fleshed out at all.
No, it's not. That's why this is a bad story.
So, just like we're going to abruptly stop this moral argument, the character abruptly stops the moral argument because Green Arrow just takes out one of the sonic arrows and makes a loud noise and everyone gets headaches. Real sinus headaches.
Yeah, Green Arrow takes out like his doggy whistle and messes with Hal Jordan.
Yeah.
And then everyone's cool after that. Like, Green Arrow's just like, you okay, bro? And you're like, yeah, I'm okay, bro. And then that's it. End the scene.
I think it's kind of like that thing where someone goes, hey, just stop and take a breath for a second. But they're talking about torturing people. This isn't like who spilled the beer at the bar.
Yeah, but like I'm not gonna try to defend it, but I'm like they also like they love each other. Like they know that like regardless at the end of this day, they're gonna like fix this argument.
The one thing that I want to point out that I do actually think Robinson does really well is he does make, even though the characters are really weird and like the choices are stuff, he does write them.
He writes the relationships.
He writes the relationships the way they should be.
For his history of DC, he understands the dynamics.
Yes.
For the most part,
and that's something that
is
is tough to do. So I do have to give him some credit. This book sucks though.
Yeah. So we have to remind writers of that because they might.
Yeah, he writes those as well. This book is garbage.
We're just getting desensitized because I'm like, oh no, this is pretty good, and then I'm like, wait a second.
Ryan slips into his old habit of like, hold on, wait,
are there raisinets here?
are there raisinets and mac and cheese nearby?
So Freeman suggests to the party, hey, instead of torture people, maybe we should just go to Justice League and ask for help because like this is clearly big shit.
And at this point, we're not being proactive. They did bad stuff, so they could help us.
Yeah.
So there's just a bunch of characters here. We're not going to get into them. But basically, Kongorilla and Starman meet up with a bunch of heroes and ask them for help. And they say, we should go find the Justice League. And meanwhile, the main team goes to find the Justice League. And the only person worth pointing out is, I guess, Tana Troy, who was the first Wonder Woman's sidekick. She's only worth pointing out because she barely...
What's her origin again?
Shut the fuck up, Joe.
Wonder Girl has a very complicated origin. She's mini Wonder Woman.
Yeah, that's all you need to know. But the only reason we even have to bring her up is because she has barely any character involved in the story. She has more plot importance than almost...
She's the only one who does anything.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, they all try to do stuff.
They try,
It
and they
goes very
fail.
poorly for them.
So they meet the Justice League, and Black Canary, which is a female superhero who has sonic screams, and is Green Arrow's girlfriend,
wife
at this point.
Very popular on the Arrow TV show. If you guys watch and follow it,
And she was a very popular character for a long time. She was on Birds of Prey. She has her own series now. But she says she's super mad at Green Arrow for quitting the team.
not just super mad that he left and stuff. Super mad because she hasn't called him for weeks. Weeks. Her husband. Weeks. This remember I said like he respects character dynamics.
One he
This
does
is the
not.
one where he totally like fucks up completely.
Yeah.
Because there's no way that like he'd ever
For
go
the record,
and
though,
be
Green
like,
Arrow and Black Canary have always had like a don't talk to each other while they're on missions thing. That's established. They're not Bruce. They're
Weeks.
not. They're not Clark Kent and Lois Lane that like cuddle every night.
No, I'm
For
not
the
saying
record.
cuddle every night. I'm saying talked in weeks.
Yeah, that is excessive. But it's not. It's not as outrageous as if it was like Peter Parker or Mary Jane.
No, it's not. But it's still. It is so. He would not do that.
Yeah.
I'm more offended by the fact Black Canary says after Green Arrow left, she fell apart. She couldn't manage her life anymore. She couldn't manage the team more. She dissolved the Justice League because she couldn't.
Well, of course she has to, because now we have to have this new Justice League team.
Well, I would say, with the exception of Wonder Woman,
Wink, wink.
Black Canary is far and above the most established and strong female character at DC that isn't a derivative of another male character like Supergirl, Batgirl, Batwoman. I'd say Black Canary is
the strongest individual character.
definitely the
Yeah.
strongest individual. Not even just female character. She's one of the best B-list characters that DC has.
She could be A-list if they ever,
Yeah.
got it. Especially with the Arrow show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, anyone who's watched Arrow knows Black Canary is awesome.
Yeah.
And she definitely wouldn't fall to pieces because Ollie went out and had a boys' night
For weeks.
where they torture people.
For weeks.
But this kind of has very weird issues with women between Supergirl crying over Green Lantern.
Oh, this is not a feminist masterpiece.
Yeah.
Not like Trouble was.
Oh, by the way, we forgot to mention, when Supergirl starts crying, Green Arrow starts baby talking her, literally saying, did the bad man make you feel bad? Don't worry, he's just a bad man. He's a bad man. We don't talk
I like
to him.
the accent that you give.
No, he fucking literally says it. Let me fucking quote it.
No, I
quote it.
believe you.
No. Let's slide time travel.
Okay.
Find this fucking page.
Pull up a
Hey,
chair,
don't
baby.
cry. Hey, don't cry. The Horrible Man didn't mean it. He gets grumpy around this time of day. He doesn't get a candy bar. We know you're on our side. Supergirl is an adult woman.
Yeah. Who has her own TV show now that's
Yeah.
very popular.
So what?
I don't know what that is, Joe.
I was doing the Doctor Who theme.
Oh.
So as the cry for justice meets up with the Justice League, it turns out supervillains all over the city.
Has the cry for justice.
As the,
No, it's the best name. That's the best name for
The
their
town
team.
criers.
the Justice Criers. That's it. The Justice Criers. So the Justice Criers and Justice League meet up, and it turns out the Prometheus team are all meeting around the world. Supervillains are all just causing shit in every city, and all superheroes have to stop all these shit all over the world. And they talk about how since Prometheus knows all the weaknesses of all the heroes, now he's using the weaknesses of the villains against them to make them do what Prometheus wants.
Yeah, did they ever explain, does he blackmail the villains?
That's suggested, but
It's another thing that they just dropped.
because he's getting a lot of guys
Robinson
to
and like
attack places for seemingly no gain.
one thing I want to say about Prometheus is I'm not the biggest fan of Prometheus in his original story, and
I like his original story. It's not a character I'll be like, wow, best character ever. But as a concept of a guy,
He has those fans though. He has fans that are
but
best
I always
character
felt
ever.
like he did have a little bit too much plot armor, force. Like, look how badass he is, and
but he gets taken out by Catwoman.
yeah. But that's true. That's true.
Like he's nowhere near the level he is here.
Yeah.
Grant Morrison's not.
But
making
that's the thing is, even when Grant Morrison, who is a writer who's like the king of like that hot, like big concept, like just no, he's bigger than life kind of thing. Even Grant Morrison's Prometheus doesn't hold a candle to this Prometheus, which is just like, trust me, I am a god for whatever reason. I can do anything I want to anybody and make anybody do anything.
So
Justice.
Justice. So it turns out Prometheus is using all technology he stole while the heroes were distracted of all these villains
You're welcome for bringing up that plot point.
to create a teleporter. A teleporter that's big enough to teleport an entire city. So in the scene we meet Arsenal, aka Roy Harper, aka Green Arrow's former psychic.
AKA Speedy, AKA Red Arrow.
This is his first scene in this book. He has like 5 lines before he has to step out.
He has a line. This dialogue is just to establish that he has a daughter that he loves.
This
That is it.
This dialogue is equivalent of a character in the movie saying, "I can't wait to retire today. Boy, me and my wife are going to go on a nice beach and relax all
One
day
day
long."
to my retirement.
Yeah. So Roy Harper shows up. He acts like a great guy. I have to go talk to my daughter. He leaves. Supergirl goes to find him. She finds out, oh no, Roy Harper has his arm ripped off. He says, I can't feel my fingers.
And in the intro to this book, James Robinson says this is quite possibly the best line he's ever written. He says that in the intro to the book. I can't feel my fingers with a bloody, stumped arm, Roy Harper. And now one thing I want to say about Roy is he, in the 70s, had a big drug problem and really, really hit rock bottom. And they had been spending the last 30 years trying to build up his character to get over that, and he ended up having a baby with a villain, and he accepted the responsibility.
Became a single father.
He became a single
The
father.
only single father in comics.
Yeah, the only single father in comics. And if you're a fan of the Arrow show, you'll know that Roy Harper is a character that feels guilty about a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And he's on the Justice League for the first time, and the Justice League didn't even ask Green Arrow. They asked Arsenal, his sidekick, and it was like he was at the.
It was a coming of age moment.
It was a coming of age moment, and this is the best his character had ever been in his entire. He was from the 50s or the 40s, I believe. So yeah, I think from the 40s. So this is 70 years into his character, and this is the best he's ever been. And they ruin him in this book, and we'll get to more than just his ripped off arm at this point.
I mean, well, let's start with the ripped off arm.
He's an archer.
He said, yeah, but this is like we're talking about. Like he said, this is the best line that he thought in the book. I'd say it's probably the most impactful line.
Yeah.
If you haven't read that for the first time, you get to that splash page and it's him holding and he can't. There is a lot of weight. The art sells it.
Yeah.
That line does sell it. The problem is we just met Roy. If you are in this book,
if this was Green Arrow, it would mean something.
But because we have just met him and we've only had stuff told to us, there is so
and very little. He's not mentioned until the previous page.
He just showed up in this issue. Like
he has like 5 lines before he gets zombie.
I know, but like that's the thing. Like there's no. If you're just reading this cold turkey, there is no real impact to that.
Yeah.
Like there's impact for.
This was actually the first story I ever read with Roy Harper. Oh wait, no, I read the one where he gets addicted to heroin, and then this. So I was like, Roy's a fun guy. Yeah. And now Roy's become after going back and reading a lot of older Green Arrow stuff and like the show too. Like Roy's a great character, and this makes me so sad.
So while the Justice League is tending the Cry for Justicers and the Justice League are tending to Roy's wounds, Supergirl goes to confront.
Oh, I would just like to point out that Supergirl flies over, cauterizes the wound with her laser vision, and then flies away and just leaves him there, just on the ground.
He's not bleeding anymore. He's fine.
But it doesn't. She just leaves him there. She doesn't call for help or anything. She just leaves him.
No, Congarilla calls for help.
Does he?
Yeah.
He yells.
Okay,
yes, he
my
yells
bad.
loudly.
And also,
I
considering
don't know if he calls for help. I think he just yells. And
He
everyone
yells
rushes,
justice.
so she goes to confront
along with everyone else in this.
Freddie
book.
Freeman, and she reveals, "I know it's you, Prometheus. I know when you sent that lightning down to protect us from that bomb. It was you using one of your disc things to protect us from that bomb. I know you said the word Shazam several times without turning into Shazam, because if he says Shazam, she turns back and forth, and he does it by accident a few times.
Yeah, he lets it slip. He lets the word Shazam slip.
And this is kind of a clever twist. The big problem is, why the fuck does Supergirl not tell anyone else?
Yeah.
And why she runs off to confront him after Roy gets hurt.
Is it that it just hit her, or is it that?
No, she runs off to confront him. To be fair though, Flash and Gorilla Grodd did fight him
Gorilla
too.
Grodd.
Gorilla did fight him too. They got beaten off panel.
They got beaten off panel?
Yeah. Prometheus is a dirty guy. This is a secret of trouble, actually.
I forget Flash was there too.
I forget most of these characters exist in the story. And speaking of, so the next scene is Supergirl confronts Freddie Freeman, and he turns out, yes, I'm Prometheus. He shoots her with a Vulcan gun, a magic bullet, and that takes her out of one shot.
Yeah.
And then the rest of Justice League shows up, and then this scene this is one of those scenes where they have to show off how badass the villain is. So they make the heroes.
This is what I was talking about.
Yeah, they make the heroes as dumb as possible. Not to get too much into backstory, they have one hero called Zatanna, who's a magic user. She can cast spells from far away. She runs right into melee rage just so Prometheus can shoot her right in the throat, and she can't cast spells anymore.
Yeah. The Flash is chasing him,
Yeah.
and he says, "Stop accessing files," and then hits him with something stupid. Like, The Flash is running at him already. We see him
this
running.
Jay Garrick
It's Jay.
later? Okay.
And Jay's not super fast, but he's fast enough to not.
No, Jay's super fast.
Yeah, I mean, he's
Jay's
relative to the Flashes.
Jay
he's not
is super fast.
He's definitely super fast relative to like people, and he stops and like puts in a disc and accesses it.
It's
and,
like relative to like, except for like 5 other people on this planet.
Yeah.
Like he is
yeah,
probably even like 4 at this point.
yeah, because Sonic the Hedgehog is no longer canon.
And also, Black Canary, another ranged character with a sonic scream. A ranged character runs forward into melee range just so Prometheus can take her out.
Yeah.
This happens more times in comics than I can count, where characters just run into the villain punches.
It's something we're
fist.
definitely going to refer to again in the future. It's called jobbing.
Yeah.
When they job at a character, where they take an established character and let him get the shit kicked out of them
To show how badass.
To show how badass they are. Yeah.
Yeah. So he takes out pretty much entire Justice League and Cry for Justice team.
And there's got to be 20 characters here. That he just takes out.
And they're attacking him on all fronts. Ray Palmer shrinks down and he detects him in his armor and sends nanomachines after him to attack him and fucks up Ray's body.
He gives Ray a sinus headache, which was a nice piece of irony.
Yeah, he does give Ray a sinus headache, and his head's all like crushed.
Yeah, his whole body's distorted. Then Jay Garrick shows up in the story. He's like, "Hey, I'm gonna be part of this plot." And Prometheus is like, "No, you're not. Get the fuck out of here, Ray."
Yep.
We didn't
and then
mention
Shade.
the Shade at all.
Let's not, please. Like he's so on the front of the
The
story.
Shade is, long story short, we can just do this real quick. Shade was another
Starman character.
Starman character who's probably the most well-handled character in the story. He does his own investigative thing, and he goes through Jay Garrick.
He's always been like, at least in Starman, he's like an anti-hero who just like likes to investigate and like find everything out and kind of manipulate.
He
things.
loves his city, and he senses that his city is in danger, so he's acting in the best interest of
So
his
he
city.
goes to Jay, and they recruit a bunch of other heroes, and I mean dozens of super obscure heroes that I've never even heard of. And like they all show up at different points in the story to not do anything.
Yeah,
pretty
so
much.
like Shade, when he shows up, I was like, "Oh, Robinson's bringing back Shade. This is gonna be awesome." And he doesn't do anything.
Yeah, Shade shows up
No, he has this big moment in a couple of pages.
with one where he gets taken out by Prometheus one shot.
No, the one after that.
Even here, Prometheus gets to Shade and he goes, "I have files on every hero. Who are you?" And he goes, "I'm not a hero." And I'm thinking like, "Oh, this is why Shade is here. He's gonna be Prometheus." And Prometheus goes, "Oh, okay, never mind." Beats him.
Yep.
Which is weird because Prometheus uses Shade's powers to take out Jay Garrick.
And also,
Yeah.
also the device later on, Prometheus sets devices to counteract people's powers. He sets a device to counteract Shade's powers.
Yeah.
This story is poorly fucking written. This story is a piece of shit. Okay, just to clarify. So then, the character barely even have any explanation, any character development, anything. Donna Troy is the one to take out Prometheus.
She just punches him.
Yeah, she just punches him. And also, Prometheus took her out twice. She did not do anything special to defeat him. Basically,
She rams him.
yeah, he shoots her. She breaks out the arrows that he uses to nail her to the cross, to the wall.
Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. Then Prometheus tricks Green Arrow to shoot her in the legs, and then finally she just punches him in the face.
Prometheus disguises her as Prometheus,
Yeah,
so he
yeah,
shoots her.
Yeah. So and then she smashes his helmet. She smashes it in his hands. Next scene, they rebuild it and give it back to him. This helmet is the source of his powers. This helmet is how he gets the skills of every hero into his brain.
So let's give it back to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Oh, that's also where the Shade comes in. Donna's about to murder him, and the Shade's like, hold on, you don't want to cross that line. That's a line I crossed. Once again, nice scene, but like, unless you've read James Robinson's Starman,
Yeah.
you're not going to get any context for
Nobody
that.
cares about Shade at this point in the story. Nobody cares about Donna. There's no reason for us to care about these.
Yeah.
It's only good as... That's why I used to defend this
If you
story.
know the entire DC universe, it's a very interesting tale.
Yeah, and there's that's the thing is like from a Hal perspective, from a Ray Palmer perspective, I was enjoying from an Ollie perspective, I was enjoying elements of the story, and I think reading it now, knowing the DC universe a lot better, I was like, wow, you are just ruining.
Where do you have to judge this instead of judging this as part of like a greater like we have to judge this solely as a story?
And sucks as
Yeah.
that.
That's where it fails.
Yeah.
As a piece of like something that acknowledges the greater history of the DC universe, it does a great job at that, and I almost thought it did it to its detriment to the point where
Yeah.
it is so. I don't want to say it's continuity, but it so goes out of its way to acknowledge all these different continuities.
It feels
that
more
it's
like
almost
an
suffocated by it.
inventory than a story.
Yeah.
That's very fair.
Which is probably why he cleans up so much.
So the final issue. They have Prometheus. Prometheus reveals the master plan. Basically, the teleport he created, he wants to teleport every city.
No, he's got bombs everywhere.
No, he wants to teleport every city
They're time bombs.
to time bombs.
Literal time
Yeah.
bombs. He wants to displace cities throughout the time stream because this whole thing is, listen, if I blow up people, you'll grieve and you'll get over it. But if they're lost in time forever, that's something that you'll never get over.
I don't get why Prometheus wants to do this so
Because
badly.
he's an asshole.
But just because he's an asshole?
Because his parents
That is
died.
consistent with his characterization. He's just an asshole.
Okay, so
Yeah.
fair enough. But then, is this because this is his personality? Because he says, oh, I'm captured now. I made this whole convoluted plan. This insanely convoluted plan. I called in every favor I have to make this plan work. All I want now is to be free. So I will call off my entire plan and just free me.
Yeah. Ask Ollie how he feels about his plan.
Why don't you ask Roy?
Oh, yeah, that's a fair point. In homage to Watchmen,
Yeah.
he says, I will set off bombs all over the cities. And he says, oh, wait, Green Arrow, for your city, I did it 5 minutes ago. Ha.
To show, because Green Arrow says, how do we know this isn't a bluff? How do we know he's not just saying this so we let him go? And then he goes, it's funny that you asked because your city's garbage now.
So Green Arrow city's being blown up. And then we get the fucking scene that is the worst, probably one of the worst comic panels in history.
Yeah.
We get to see Roy's daughter, her first appearance in this book. Roy's daughter. Roy's a character who'll show up for like
Keep in
5
mind,
pages.
she has been a character for 30 years.
Yeah.
Really, 30 years?
She came up in the early 80s, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh my God, you're right.
Or maybe mid 80s, maybe 25 years.
Okay. No, you're absolutely right. I forget sometimes
Yeah.
how.
Long,
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
long comics are. But her first appearance is as a corpse.
Yeah.
This character, this child was used as a cheap emotional moment.
So keep in mind,
for
we
the
were
story.
talking about Roy Harper's development and how he's the only single dad in comics. So what do? They rip off his arm and they kill the dog.
Yeah, and he barely shows up in the story.
Yeah. There's no, like you said, Leanne's first appearance and only appearance is as a corpse.
Yeah.
In Green Arrow's arms.
So, worst fucking scene in any comic ever, in my opinion. And then, so it turns out the bombs, they can't be disabled because every bomb has a perfect countermeasure to the heroes that are in that city. So Shade, who Prometheus says, I don't have a record on you. His bomb, if it lacks light, the bomb lacks light, it will self-destruct or something.
Yeah, the shadow makes it speed up.
No, it makes it speed up, yes. The shadow makes it speed up. So Shade, a character, Prometheus says, I don't know who you are. I made the perfect countermeasure for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's that.
That's what he would make it for Shade and not for Starman.
Even James Robinson was like, I can't bring Starman into this book.
Yeah.
Or any Starman.
Well, I
he
mean-
acknowledges another Starman.
Yeah,
going
where
on.
is the Starman he brings into this book at this point?
Who gives a shit at
He
this
got,
point?
he got beaten up in the Watchtower.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so
Yeah, they write out a lot of characters at this point. They're like, he just, in their negotiations with Prometheus, they're like, we're going to negotiate with him. He just, leveled Star City. He
Yeah.
put half of our roster on the injured reserve.
That's one thing that I am not being clear enough at. As I think any of us are. There are so many cameos and characters introduced and dropped out. Just go to like the DC Wiki page to any of these issues. There are at least 25 characters.
There were so many characters we had to skip. We had to skip Guardian. We had to skip
Guardian's
Batwoman.
in a lot. Batwoman's in a lot. Like there are so many characters
We
that
barely had to mention the Shade because
Yeah.
we're mentioning the Shade right now because we have to.
because of James Robinson.
we don't even
Yeah.
have to. We're just doing it because it's interesting facts.
Yeah, and the thing
No,
is,
but we have to. He's become a decent part of the story
Yeah,
at this point.
there are
He's a good scene, but if
Yeah.
we're talking about just plot,
Yeah.
important plot elements, he's not.
Yeah.
there are dozens of characters in every issue that are just there as cameos.
And one of the characters that has the most important part of the story shows up halfway through. Two of the most important characters, Roy Harper and Donna Troy, show up halfway through, and we get barely an explanation to their characters.
They're maybe on 5 pages apiece.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this whole plan is very stupid because Prometheus bombs counteract fucking everything. They find Freddie Freeman, who has his mouth stitched up, and he has trouble speaking, but he manages to get the word Shazam out, which turns him into his Adonis-like, Superman-like form.
Little boy turns big boy.
So Shazam tries his powers to stop the bombs, and the only explanation they do is Prometheus says, "Ha! You think I wouldn't have countermeasures against magic? That's it." Shazam, one of the most powerful characters in DC. I just have a countermeasure for that. That's the only explanation you would get.
Miss Martian comes back at this point too, just to get jobbed out to him.
To
as
try to
well.
read his mind,
Yeah.
and then she gets like
She gets
psychic
jobbed out.
feedback and
Yeah.
all that nonsense.
Good thing they give him back his helmet.
Yeah,
Just so
good
he can
thing.
do that. And so,
I'd like to think this is a satire of this is what the Justice League is without Batman.
yeah. And also about the helmet thing, he doesn't finish the bomb planting thing until he's kept prisoner. He says, "I'm downloading all your information as I'm sitting here." So they gave him the helmet back, and he's downloading information. If they took away the helmet, his whole plan would stop right there.
Yeah.
So this whole story is only possible because the Justice League is fucking mentally deficient.
I like to think that he's super ugly, and they're like, "Oh God, put the helmet back on. He's hideous." Oh,
But yeah, so
ugh.
now we get to the Prometheus.
Give me one more Joe.
Ugh.
As we said, Prometheus says, "Let me go, and I'll have this all stop." And Justice League is trying desperately to find a way to not set him free. And this is a story where the plot demands that he be set free because whatever plot contrivance they need to explain how every Superman on the planet can't stop these abilities, Prometheus somehow find a way to make those plot contrivances happen.
How do we feel about that, though?
I fucking hate it.
This was the part. This is where I kind of enjoyed. I don't think it's done well, but this is a story where they lose.
They
Not-
have
not
to
only-
let him go.
not only-
After
yeah.
he killed Leanne, Roy's daughter,
Yeah.
after he ripped all these horrible things, they have to let him
They
go. And
lose.
that's the thing is that would be a moral argument and an interesting argument if I bought into why they lost.
Yeah, I don't
It
buy
wasn't their arrogance that made them lose. It wasn't their adherence to a strict moral code that made them lose. It's plot bullshit.
Yep.
But I do agree with you, Joe, that
It is
in
an
theory,
it is an interesting thing in theory. I agree about the plot bull crap, but I found it very interesting that it's a super story that we never see.
I think it's
they
a
lose.
story we see in Marvel a lot.
Yeah.
That we never see in DC.
Do we see it like this though?
Not to this extent.
Like
because
this
I
is
think
this
the
is as
reason-
close to a total loss.
I think
as
the
I've
reason
ever
why
seen.
it's so big is because we
Yeah.
don't see things like this, especially in DC at all.
Yeah.
DC doesn't have stories with like DC's always like the Superman standing on the mountaintop, like with the wind in his hair. Like it's very
Yeah.
they're not as fallible as Marvel characters, and I think having this story be all about like the fallibility of DC's morals is
But it's not
why
even the
I.
fallibility of the morals. It's just.
But you know, like in this
Yeah.
case, they have to compromise.
Yes.
And like normally that would be fascinating, but this story is bad,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and it should feel bad.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dr. Swiper.
So the two final most dumb moments in the story. Moment number one, Prometheus gives him the code. They decide to let him go, so Prometheus gives him the code. Then they let him leave. Why?
Yeah.
Why not fucking just kill him right there?
Because you're honorable. And no one's going to kill them.
And
That's
also,
one
why
thing.
why is Prometheus giving the code anyway? Why is he honorable? Why does he say, "Thank you for letting me go. I will give"?
That's
you
one thing I never got about superheroes, and I love superheroes, obviously. But that's one thing, like Captain America does this all the time, where it's like I told him I couldn't lie. I'm like, he just murdered all these people. You couldn't lie to him.
Yeah.
Like what the hell are you talking about?
But I don't buy into the story because A, Prometheus is super honorable because he gives him the code. B, Justice League, even the Cry for Justice members are super honorable because they let him go.
After he gives them the code, why do they let him leave?
Yeah.
Why doesn't he give them half the code before, half the code after? or
Exactly. That would
something?
make sense. That's what you do if you're trying to make this work logically in the story. If you're
Yeah.
trying to make good writing. But yeah,
If you're trying to make good writing.
You're trying to make good writing. I write good. I am a writer. Go read my comics, by the way. They're great. SlyStories.com, by the way. So, the final dumb moment. Theoretically, it's a cool moment, but considering all the bullshit happened before it,
I think this bullshit is excusable.
so Prometheus goes back to his pocket dimension. A dimension is hard to get to, and he's a guy with all the plans. He sets up no defenses for his base.
Also, that scientist is still there as like a
Yeah.
brain dead.
Still
Yeah.
drooling
He's
in the
still
chair
drooling
where he
on
left him like hours ago.
Yeah.
So he
I
sets up.
assume covered in feces and urine.
Green Arrow just
You
walks.
wouldn't have to hold it in. By definition, yeah.
I really like the idea of Prometheus putting a diaper on him before he leaves.
So Green Arrow just walks into this pocket dimension domain and shoots him in the head of an arrow. End of story.
Yep.
No. What does he say?
Justice.
Finally, someone got justice in the story.
This would be a great scene if we didn't spend the whole story establishing Prometheus as a god tier, all mega character.
It turns out the two things that his two weaknesses, an arrow and a fist.
And that wraps up Cry for Justice, also referred to as Gay for Justice because of the font they use for the
It
logo.
makes it look like it says gay for justice
Yeah.
on the cover, yes.
So, would you guys recommend Cry for Justice?
I would recommend it.
Did we do this already?
We
Well,
did
no,
already.
now it's Final
judgments.
Judgments.
Final
Final
judgments.
Final judgments.
This is a bad book. It is terrible. Only if you want to see why comic fans complain about comics are too gritty and dark, and you want to see the best example of dark for the sake of dark with no substance, I think this book is terrible.
Joe.
Yeah, this book is pretty duty. Fun fact: they explain this in another thing, but Green Owl gets there via the shade to Prometheus's lair.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, that makes more
That
sense.
makes more sense.
If you're curious about that, that's about all I know about that. And James Robinson would go on to do better books after this. Thank you. It's tough because I really loved his Shade mini that he did at the launch of New 52.
Kind of right after this.
A year or two after. He
Yeah.
does at the launch of New 52, and it's brilliant. And then he does a recent run Fantastic Four, and it's very hard to look at those runs that I really look at fondly, and then kind of look at this, and this is just whatever could go wrong, did go wrong in this book. And there are moments that I very much enjoy. There are concepts that I very much enjoy, but none of it is really done well.
Yeah.
And it's just like I can't even recommend it as oh, read this as a joke, you know?
That's the thing is like Trouble was so silly and like quirky and ridiculous.
And here's the thing, like Trouble did no damage to
Yeah.
like it was an Elseworld story, like it had no impact on anything. It was just
And even if it was continuity, Ame and
I
Uncle
think
Van
we
Boning.
talked about Trouble enough.
I know, but even if it wasn't continuity, that's not the worst thing that could happen to those characters.
Yeah.
Especially
The
Spider-Man.
thing is,
this set back so many characters
Yeah.
for
The thing is,
a
it's-
very, very long time.
Yeah,
I don't think Roy in the comics, I don't think Roy Harper has ever recovered
no,
from
absolutely
this.
not. And the thing is, like, this kind of book, because it has the good concepts that you said, we talked about premises that Joe
Yeah.
and I really like, and, like, because of that, that's what doesn't make it so bad it's good, whereas, like, a book like Ultimatum,
Yeah.
which is a book we're going to talk about a lot, is so bad that it's worth reading for how bad it is.
Yeah.
Whereas this is there's just enough good James Robinson in here for me to just get mad at it.
It's tough to read.
Yeah, it's tough
if
to
you especially if you love these characters because they are just no good. I don't think any good came for anyone out of this story.
Absolutely not.
Like if you liked Prometheus, not only did this build him back up to like a tier that I don't think anyone wanted.
Yeah.
He's dead at
Gets
the end of
killed
the story.
Yeah. What about you, Sly?
I think as long as for the length we do this podcast, it will be a long time before we find a story I hate as much as this one.
Challenge accepted.
Speaking of which, next episode we are going to be doing the follow-up, the sequel to this book. Some reviews say on Amazon, none of us have read it yet. Some reviews say not as good as Cry for Justice. The follow-up was disappointing, so we are very excited for
So
that.
when I say I don't know how long it'll take for me to find the worst comic, it might be next week, guys.
Yeah. If anyone wants to read it, it's Justice League Rise and Fall.
Okay, I'll have to do some research into this because the only time I see Roy Harper show up after this is Eric Wallace's Titan,
Which we will definitely also talk about at some
Oh
point.
God.
Before we wrap up, I have to point this out because it's easy to forget because it's a one line in the story.
Justice.
Justice. But the resolution to the whole more argument of torturing, it gets resolved in one line in the middle of the last issue. Ray just says, "Oh wait, I should have mind about torture. It's bad." That's literally what happens. He talks to Prometheus. Let me see if you can open it up.
Yeah.
Let me see the actual scene.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Torture's bad. Okay. Okay, children.
Yeah. So last scene is Prometheus saying, "Oh, you're gonna torture me now, Ray?" And Ray, off screen, he got a huge character development saying, "No, I realize Green Arrow is right. Torture is wrong." Let's remind you, last time he talked about torture, Green Arrow just shot a sonic character to make everyone stop talking, and they all abruptly stopped their conversation.
And it's not like Ray was just like bending their arm a little bit too much. He was shrinking down and stomping on their brains.
Yeah.
Like, he was really torturing them.
Yeah.
So, okay, before we get to recommendations, there is a new segment to the show that you guys don't know about.
Butt stuff?
Yeah, butt stuff. That I want to bring up.
This wasn't in our contract, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm being paid extra for this one.
I am introducing the letters page, where we read letters we get from listeners.
Do we get any letters?
If you want to write in, it's divisiveissues@gmail.com, And this first letter comes from Ariel. Check, check, 1, 2, hello, smiley face. So, the email is officially set up and it works. So, if you would like to add and write in a new letter,
Ariel, if you're listening right now, you're beautiful.
it's divisiveissues@gmail.com.
We have a fan. The prettiest fan in all the land. God, I wish you could hear this right now. Maybe she will down the line.
I'm glad that Joe is using this podcast as a medium to hit on my girlfriend.
Compliment.
Okay, recommendations.
So, recommendations. What would you recommend as an alternative to this story? And why would you recommend as an alternative?
Do you want to go first, Joe?
Oh, God, no, I have nothing.
I'll go first if you guys don't want
Okay.
to.
Please go first.
My recommendation is Chris Yost and Craig Kyle's X-Force. During the Civil War episode, we talked about how the X-Men were in a bad spot at that time, how they went to 2 genocides. X-Force is a story where Cyclops and Wolverine form a covert X-Men team, basically to hunt down anyone trying to kill the last surviving mutants. They do a lot of morally questionable stuff. There's a lot of moral ambiguity in it. But first of all, the writing's way better. Chris
Yes.
Yost is one of my favorite writers, just like James Robinson used to be. But I do think Chris Yost handles this kind of subject matter better than James Robinson does.
I actually think that the artist is the most similar to this
I was about
artist.
to say that.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's a
You
great
say
point.
that then. You take
No, I'm going to give you credit to Ryan because you are a genius, Ryan. This brilliant man over here.
that. The artist, is it... I want to say Clayton Crane, but I don't think that's true. It might be. Whatever. That the artist
When you look
is-
up the title, you'll find out the artist's name.
yeah, I think the artist is the closest I've ever seen to this artist.
Yeah. But one thing I do love about that run is it is not treated as we are committing justice here. We are justice. They know they're doing morally questionable things. They are doing what they need to survive. It is not we have to go and stop criminals before they stop crimes. It is we are going to die if these criminals get even a second chance to come after
And they
us.
stay covert so that it doesn't like taint the X-Men
Yeah,
name.
they know what they're doing is bad. They want to make sure their stuff is hidden. So what about you guys?
Okay, I would like to recommend James Robinson's Starman. It is one of my favorite books of all time. I think it is, to me, the book that shows the potential of the DC Universe more than any other book. It features the Starman from this book and the Shade in much, much better roles. It's long, but I think it stays fantastic from issue 1 till the end. And I think that even the most casual comic book fan, even someone who's never read a comic book even someone who's never read a comic book before can pick it up and really find something interesting about that book. About you, Joe?
I'm going to recommend JSA by Jeff Johns. It features Jake. It's just really good comics. And after reading this story, that's all I really want right now.
And the J stands for justice, so.
I just really want to read like good team comics where people do good things.
If you
and
want
it's-
an alternative Justice team, that's not this. Justice Society is pretty good.
I think Jeff Johns' JSA is, if not the best, top 3 best team books of all time.
just go treat yourself. Just go read JSA. Just go have a good time. All right.
And James Robinson actually launches the book. The
I
first
know.
arc is written by James
Don't
Robinson.
question your morals. You're gonna see a lot of familiar characters and stuff in it, and it's great comics. It's a good run,
Yeah.
and I for the most part I don't have to question how I feel inside,
Yes.
which is all I really want to do right now. So
I do want to say, as much as I've been crapping on James Robson's episode and his writing this issue, Starman is one of my favorite comics too. So I love you, man. Do better than this from now on.
he has, I think.
So if you guys, like I said before, want to write in, it's divisiveissues@gmail.com. Let us know your thoughts on Cry for Justice, any recommendations you have for further episodes, because we have plenty of garbage to read,
Yep.
but, that we're always on the lookout for more.
We're always on the lookout for garbage.
Yeah.
It's-
And you could tweet at us at Divisive Issues. You could check out our Facebook page.
Yeah.
You guessed it, Divisive Issues. And, yeah, that's pretty much it.
I've been Sly.
I've been Ryan.
I'm Joe. Stay in continuity.
Shh, I was getting to it.
Sorry. God damn it, Sly. I fucked everything.
No, you're fine. I love you. Stay in continuity.